Hi friends, Christine here. So glad to be back with you. I'm so glad you're here. I'm very excited. It's been a berserk summer, and I'm happy to be back kind of in the groove. I do want to share with you one thing that kept me away for much of the summer. Well, one thing was a new project I'm working on. I'm involved in with a partner, and it's a lot of fun, and hopefully I'll be able to announce that sooner than later. But on top of that, I had sort of a medical thing going on, and I'm sharing this with you because it could affect you. Basically what was going on is I was having symmetrical body pain, and it would be in elbows and joints and muscles, and always both shoulders, both elbows, both thighs, whatever it was, both feet. Feet were a big one, hands were a big one, but often the shoulders and that area. And it turned out that I had an extreme vitamin D deficiency, so extreme that my body was just like hurting itself, and it couldn't get enough nutrition, and that simply because here in Vermont it rained most of the summer, and when it wasn't raining I was still indoors doing some of the projects I'm working on. So my vitamin D level was at 16 when 30 to 100 is considered low to high. So I just share this with you if you need to keep on your vitamin D. And I'm told that in Vermont nobody gets enough anyway. So they put me on these 50,000 international units of vitamin D for 2 months, and that should help. In fact, it took 2 weeks before I actually felt any better. And I didn't feel perfect, but into week 3 I started feeling perfect. I'm now in week 4. Things are better. My body doesn't hurt. And it was a little bit scary because things were tossed around like rheumatoid disease and fibromyalgia or polymyalgia, and thankfully it was not that. It was vitamin D. So drink your milk, go outside, lift your face toward the sun for 10 minutes every day that you can, and then you should be all set. And take supplements if you need to. So there you go. That's one of the things that was going on. The other thing was I still have something going on with my hands, but we're feeling good today, and it's not carpal tunnel. I just got tested for that last week, so whatever it is, we'll figure it out. Where are we? Oh gosh, I have so many projects in the works right now, so many new things I'll be sending up in the next few weeks, and I have some other projects well into fall and starting to tickle the holidays, the Christmas holidays. But I want to talk about these because one question I've been asked so often by several people is, could I make these bigger? These are the little treasure books where you can hide your things. And the other one is, could I make these bigger? So I've sort of done both. Now, this book can't be made too much bigger and still be printed out on 8.5 by 11. And when I design things, I do try and keep them so that you guys who don't have oversized printers like me, that you can still print them out and create these little things on your own printers. And the same with this. There's some more flexibility with these, but I made them this size just to be convenient and cute. So what I've done is I've created a book box like this, okay? This one I just made, and it's using printed papers that I designed, but you could just as easily, and you'll see these in the video too, just as easily have used actual book covers. This is one I made earlier. This is the first one I ever made, and this holds letters that a particular cousin who sends me a lot of mail, which I love. All of her mail goes in here, and I'm about to create a new box for her because you can see it's getting filled. This one's getting filled up. So I didn't choose this one for its particular aesthetic. I mean, the age of Louis the 19th, 18th, 19th, didn't really wow me, but it was a book that was big enough that I had on hand when I wanted to make this book box. So there you go. That's why I chose that. This one was made to house eco-printed cards for another friend. This one I made to a size specific that I wanted, and did it with papers that I designed. And that's what I show you in the video, is how to do it this way. Now, again, once you get to a certain point in creating this, you essentially have a book cover, you could use any book cover you want. So if you don't want to create your own, you can skip ahead and just get to the how do you construct the box. So with this, as I said, this is my kind of answer to making this bigger. And yes, it is different, but it is as effective. This one doesn't look as much like a real book because I used a different binding than I would for an actual book like this. But it still works. It looks like a book. You can add things to your spine if you want. And as you might have noticed, inside we have bigger notebooks. I've made several of them. There's a couple of different kits. If you go on Etsy, you'll see them. This is the one I made this book box for. These, they are devotion journals, and they are monthly. So there's one in the kit. There's one for every month, January through December. And I thought, well, where would you put them when you know, it's November and you've got 10 of these books already filled in and you want to do that, or, store them somewhere. So this book fits into this box. And I left a little bit larger room in case you wanted to put some of this larger kind of mail, as is in here, into here. So the whole dimension of this size is 5.5 by about 9. So you have plenty of room for a 5x9 envelope and other things. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to make this box, and then there are other videos that talk about making these items and the fact that they can also go in your journal, similar to their pocket-sized cousins. You could definitely put them in your journal, and I'll show you a couple of different ways how. So that's what we're doing. I hope this is something that gets you excited to make maybe some good Christmas gifts. Again, I made a fall theme because, it's fall and it is my favorite season. So, but you can use anything, any papers that you have, any papers I've done, store-bought, stock, scrapbook paper, it can all be used. So let's get to work. All right, the first thing we need to do is create bookboard. Now you could definitely use bookboard for this project, and I've done that before. And of course you can use an actual book cover, like this one was an actual book cover that I used to make this box with. But we're creating our own custom box for these notebooks, so let's begin fresh with recycled cereal boxes. And I'm going to just cut them. I know I won't need this part, so I'm just going to trim them. And I'm probably going to put, at least 3, maybe 4 layers together, because you really do want it to be sturdy. So let's see, we'll kind of experiment with, it doesn't have to be super straight. We'll experiment with how thick we need it to be. So in this case, so there's this seam here, and that will bother me if I feel it in the book itself. So I'm going to take this apart from the edge and cut those parts off. So you can see here at each of these seams, I'm just going to slice them off. So now you want to be aware of which way the grain is going on this cardboard. Let me get this other side off too, because we always want to glue with the grain, meaning it just has to be going the same way. So I wouldn't want to glue this piece of board to this way, because that's going to make the grain be contrary to each piece will be going a different direction, and that will make it warp, and we don't want warpage. So I'm going to go ahead and slice these off, and I'll just show you on one layer how I'm going to glue, and then I'm going to glue a few layers and figure out how thick I think it reasonably needs to be. So here's 2 pieces, and I'm simply going to, again, making sure they're going in the same direction, use the Fabri-Tac to glue. I'm going to let that sit in the can upside down for a second so it comes to the spout. And while I'm doing that, I will cut these off. Okay, so basically you have the fronts and backs of 2 boxes of cereal. I'm going to put these all together and glue them up and see if I think they're going to feel strong enough for a book of this size. For smaller books, I've done only 3 pieces of cereal box, and that's been fine. For like this, for example, this I did 3 pieces and it was great, but we're having a bigger book now, so I want to make sure that it's going to feel stable. All right, I might have to open new glue. So let's just take our... So then I'm going to take this, and I'm going to go front to back, front to back. And I don't have to worry that they don't meet. I'm going to trim it all anyway. You do want to give it a good press so that it's flat and even. Okay, that's one. Let me open up a new glue, because this one I think is about done. All right, I wrangled up a fresh bottle of glue that I've already lost the lid to. And this is much better. There we go. You could get away with three layers, but I'm going to be overcautious with this and go 4. If I have the boxes, it's not like I'm having a shortage. So I'm going to use all 4. So you want 2 cereal boxes of an appropriate size for each cover, front and back. And then you can save these little other parts that can become the spine. All right, so there's one cover, and I think that'll be plenty strong. Certainly once we get it all covered with our paper. Yeah, that'll be great. So you can see it's the width pretty much of bookboard. So make sure that everything is adhered. There you go. Okay, so now I'm going to move to my next bunch of boxes, cut them up. Oh, I'm one short. I'm going to have to go grab another one because I only have 3 and I need 2 for each side. So I'll go do that. I'm going to make another set like this, and then I'll show you how to trim them down. Also, I'm going to use these for my spines, so that I will glue those up as well. Okay, so now I'm going to take this nice solid piece of cardboard to the paper cutter, to the heavy duty paper cutter I have, and I am going to trim it down to size, which I know for the book I want to make, it's 6.5 inches wide, the cover, and 9 3/4 inches tall. So I'm going to go trim these and the spine, which I know will again be 9 3/4 to match the covers, and then 1 3/4 in width. So let me go do that, and I will be right back. All right, so I have my board, and it's definitely as hard as bookboard. You can see it's, I don't know if you can see it, if it will focus this close on such a tight edge, but it is very thick. There you go. See how thick that is? Okay. So I'm going to set these aside for a minute, because now we want to choose our colors for the spine. Now for the spine material, I'm just using cheesy muslin that's available at Joann's or wherever, your favorite fabric shop, Hobby Lobby, wherever you like. And so I need to choose colors. Now I could almost leave it this color, but I don't want to, because I'm using this as the spine, and it's going to go on the outside of the book, so it's actually going to be over one edge. So I'm going to paint it a color that will also help seal it in so that the edge doesn't fray. For example, here's an old scrap I had. I thought maybe I could use, but it's not big enough. And you can see, because it was painted, when it was cut, the edge is pretty perfect and is not going to fray once you glue it down. So I can't use this color, which is okay because it really doesn't go that great, but let's find something else. I want it a little bit dark so you don't see through it, because that is a thing to consider, that you might see through it. Now here I don't see it through it, but it's something, if I left it light, I might see through it. So this is rich brown. No, that's not gonna work. All right, so it's gonna take me a minute or two to find some colors I like here. So rather than put you through that agony, let me just go do that, and I'll come back and show you how to paint the fabric. All right, so I'm going to try this terracotta color. I think it's a good choice for this. I might modify it with some other colors, other yellows, or lighten it. I remind people that we live on a busy road in the middle of nowhere, and that's exactly what it is. It's a beautiful area. People like to ride motorcycles in, and I can't blame them. Although I really wouldn't miss them if they went elsewhere. So anyway, let's start with this. Oh, that's a pretty, oh, very pretty. I think it's going to be a great choice for my orangey leaves, because I think this is going to be the lower cover. So now it's just a matter of a few layers of paint on this. And the idea is we need about 5 inches in width and 9 3/4 plus a half plus a half. So about 10 1/2 to 3/4 in length. So I'm just going to keep doing this. I'm painting on this tin, this dollar store tin, because it's washable and the paint will go through. So do put something under your fabric, because it is going to bleed through. And that's okay, because we actually want it a little on the other side too, just to help with the opacity. So I may not have to change this color too much. It picks up on some of that larger leaf, although it is a little bright now that I'm seeing it here. Let me see. Yeah, I might dull it up with a little brown. Just gonna add a little touch of brown in here. And, you know, I'm just mixing it on the fly. It's not that important. It's going to be a nice fall color. And that's all I'm really worried about. But yeah, that tones it down a little bit. It's not quite so pumpkin-y, even though it's called terracotta. So again, the only thing is you want to make sure you have covered enough. Oops. Enough of the fabric. And if you have to, pull out a ruler, which I might do in a minute. And if you can, get all the wrinkles that you're painting in to be flat. Now let's see. All right, so that's fine. Oh yeah, and that's plenty. Okay, so I'm just going to clean up some of these edges because I have a little bit more paint here. And I don't even think it needs another coat, although if you wanted to, you could. I don't want it to be a real thick piece of fabric, but we're doing this now so that it has a chance to dry while we cover the covers. Okay, I'm going to flip it over and let's just clean up back here. And the back doesn't really matter. It's going to obviously be glued to board, but it's never a bad thing to smooth everything out. Okay, so let's see. Great. So now I'm just going to go back over the front. This part will show. Let me make sure that I've got my measurements correct. What did I say? 9 3/4 plus an inch on each end is 10 3/4. So that's 11. That's great. I'll probably just cut it to 11 and definitely have enough throughout. Okay, so now I'm going to hang this up to dry, and that should be fine. I'm going to try and stretch it a little just to get those wrinkles out, and you can keep doing that as it's drying, though it doesn't really much matter because once you start gluing it on, it'll be fine. So there's my fabric. Let me go hang it up, and then we'll get on to the covers. All right, so my mistake in a sense that I forgot to tell you that you also need to paint the section for the inside of the spine, because we're going to line the whole spine with fabric. So you're going to need an additional piece that's about 9 3/4 ish by, again, probably 5, because we'll get it to match up the outside spine. That. I'd already cleaned everything off, but that's okay. This will just take a second, and we're just going to do the same thing. You know, I just forgot to explain that we need to do that, and also forgot to do it. So, same thing. Go in and really kind of glob it on. So again, you want to make sure that you've got 5 inches this way and about 9.5 that way. Actually, a minimum of 9.5. The book itself is 9 3/4, I think, and then we trim it a little bit to be about 1/4 inch in. So assume you will need 9 3/4 by 5. So I'm going to flip it over and smooth out this side. Oh, that was just a truck. It's a loud day here for some reason. So there too, this side is less important because it's going to get glued down. But we do want it to dry well and evenly. Let me go back to this side, the front side, and just make sure that we have enough painted cheap muslin. But you do want to be sure that your whole area that we're going to trim to is covered well with paint, just to seal up those edges. So I'll be back again. Now we have to cover our covers, and those covers will be here and here. And we do that, first we need to decide how do we want our covers to appear. So I think I want this in the lower corner here. I just wanted something that was artsy and fall feeling. And maybe this in the back upper cover. I'm going to put a plate on here, so I don't know, maybe I want to do this. So what's going to happen, so that you know, is we are going to cover these here and here, and then we're going to trim it flush here. So, and then some of that is going to get covered on the left side by the spine, by the fabric, the book fabric. So deciding like, okay, where do I want this? So here's my cover, and I think I'm going to do it this way, and then this would be my cover here. Yes, I think that's pretty. And the back, I'll use the larger piece. So this is very simple. We've done this before. So let's first take the front cover that I know I want to scoot this way, as it is here. So I'm going to put this down. I always get it backward. Okay, and I'm going to cover it like so. And I'm going to use this cover on the inside so that the fabric has the more porous stuff to glue to on this side. And I'll reverse that here. I will do probably that when I go to put the spine in, so that again the fabric and the spine cardboard have the most porous parts glued together. So now I just simply have to glue this up. So I'm just using plain old Fabri-Tac, and I'm using a fair amount of it. I've printed the printouts. The artwork is on my favorite HP Premium 32. So it's a sturdy paper, and it takes a beautiful image. Okay, so flip this over. Now I'm going to double check because I'm like that, and I want as much as possible on this edge, but I still want to trim it flush to the board. And then Perfect. All right, so now we do want to burnish well. Yep. There we go. We're going to let it dry. And when it does, we'll go to the other side. Now, what did I decide for this is the back cover. So this is the back cover. I want it like that. So I'm going to want to trim this edge actually. So I need this to wrap all the way around. No, wait, let me think of it. Here's the back cover. Here's the picture. I want the orange on the back cover side. So that's how I want it. And it's going to need to flip over. So, likewise, lots of glue, or, you know, an adequate amount of glue on the cardboard. And you do want to get it up to the edge, but we're going to add more along the edge, so you don't have to be too neurotic about it. Okay, so I'm going to flip this here. And I need to leave enough of an over fold. That should be good. And cover up the glue for a minute because, you know, glue. Flip this over. So this will be my back cover. All right, so we're gonna let that dry for a few minutes. Beautiful thing. And back to the front. So this is way more than we need. We only need about a 1/2 inch. So I am going to trim it because we don't need more bulk than we need. If I do it this way. So I'm going to take about take it down to about a 1/2 inch. Maybe 3/4, something like that. That wasn't even straight. Okay, fair enough. So now we need to trim these corners to take a good miter. So basically we're just going to come in, just miss it, go out. You can get fancier than that if you want, but I'm not going to. So it's going to come in, just miss it, go out. Because all this is going to be covered. All right, so we know on this side we're simply trimming to the edge. Hopefully with a sharper knife that I'm using. There we go. Great. Did you miss my head? I know, it's been so long since I've made a video. It's like I don't even remember how. Oh, that's going to be really pretty. Okay, so now we just have to fold these over. And before we do that, we do want to add a little glue along, of course, the strip, but also along this edge. So I just want to come in here and then glue the rest. So then you're going to lift it up and take the bone folder and really crease it well so that you're sure that it covers and it's going to be tight and flat and beautiful. There we go. So now, ooh, barely had enough here, but there is. It's fine. Do the same to this side, making sure again to get that edge and then all along here. All right, and then fold it all the way over. Okay. The glue is going to ooze out. We're not surprised. Good. Okay, and then a little tuck in that corner. And then finally, the last piece. A little messy cut there. Pull it up. bend it, rub that corner in. I should probably just cut that off. I think I will. There. And now burnish, 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 burnish. Okay, so then when all the glue oozes out, wipe it off. And then we have our cover, and that is really pretty. That's going to make a beautiful book. Okay, so hope that you don't have too much glue on the table, and finish burnishing this all till the glue comes out. That's good. That's beautiful. And ta-da. Okay, so then lastly, before you get too excited, I'm going to trim that because I did not trim it well on the first cut. There we go. All right, beautiful. One cover. But one thing I do is always give see how like wonky that always looks? That looks sharp and tight. Give it a little tap, round it off a little. Protect the paper, protect the cardboard. Make it look like it's lived. And there it is, a beautiful thing. Number one. So now number two, what did I say? This was going to be the outside. So I'm going to trim this side. So I might as well just do that now. So that, I'm going to use this just because it's really sharp. I'm going to come here, trim that right off. Okay, so same thing, we need to miter this. So we're going to come in, just miss, and go out. And then I can cut a little bit more off this. Well, I got to cut that one a little close. It's okay. So then just take this down to about the same as the others. Take off a little. Okay, same thing. All right, nice, 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 nice. So here I can trim again this part because I didn't trim it exactly when I cut it off. So there, a back. All right, a front and a back. Here we go. Oh, it's so pretty. Okay, so now I'm going to see how well the fabric is drying and if it's dry enough to be used or not. I'm not really sure yet. So my fabric's dry, but looking at it, I feel like it's a little too cheery, a little too bright, doesn't look aged. I want to really deepen a little. Like I really like this color, which that's the interior of the spine, and it had a little bit more brown in it. My ratio from brown and the orange was a little bit more even. So I think I want to dry brush a little brown on here and give it some texture and maybe age it a little bit. So it'll take a little bit more time to dry, but just a little, because it's going to be seriously dry brushed on. So I'm going to take hardly any paint at all and take a lot of it off. Just like the old stenciling, and just with some zeal, just kind of add a little bit of, see, he's going to pick up that seam, but that's okay. I want it to feel, again, like everything, like maybe it's been around the block. And it's a little more organic. And you shouldn't do it with something underneath because it'll pick up the edge of that. I didn't realize that was there. That's okay. Everything is good. It's going to feel organic and beautiful. So I already like it more, just as a more natural, natural appearance, that it feels less flat, less manufactured. So So I think that's good. You never, in this process, never want to go straight from paint to fabric. You definitely want to stop there. Now I'm just going to dip a little bit. Yeah, I like this a lot more. So I think I'm going to add some to the inside as well, even though it's already browner. In this case, I'm going to go straight to here. Hardly any paint at all left. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to give it a couple of minutes, clean this up, and then on to the next part. I think it's dried enough. I'm going to cut. So this is going to be for the outside. It's a little bit taller, and this will be for the inside of the spine. And I know I want 5 inches from edge to edge, and then 9, what did I say, 10 and a half, 10 and 3/4, I think 11. I want 11. So I'm going to come here and I'm lining this up with what is the most painted part. I'm just going to slice it and say, okay, that's going to be our first measurement. I'm going to measure 11 from there. There we go. 1. Okay, now we're going to need 5 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm lining it up to where I am confident I've painted all of the fabric that we'll need. I'm going to cut this off so I can see my lines down here and line up my ruler. So I'm just going to say here. That looks like it's long enough, yeah. So I know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It never hurts to measure twice. And line that up. And go. There we go. And because I like to shoot this way, I'm going to turn this over and continue my cutting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To here. And there we go. Okay, come on. You can do it. All right, and now 11. So go to 19. It's just going to make it, but that's okay. That gets covered by the inside. So here we go. I don't know why. Oh, I know I skip sometimes because I'm in the center of this table and there's a bulge in it. Okay, so that will be the outside spine. It's beautiful. Hello, Savannah. So nice to see you again. And then for this, we know we want 5 again. So I'm just going to kind of line it up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ooh, this is going to be tighter than I thought. So let me move it over here. Pull out these threads. I did learn while I was off camera that there actually is a motorcycle rally going on this weekend, so that explains the excessive abundance of motorcycle noise. Some of it we just expect, but there's been tons of it. Oh, come on. Why do you argue with me? All right, so we need 5 inches of that. And turn it over because I like cutting to the right. And line this up and trim that off, and that'll be great. Okay, so then now that we have this, I'm going to trim here. So for this we only need approximately, I'm not sure how big the end papers will be, but if I trim this to 9.5, that should be just fine and dandy. So let's start with this and make sure it's straight.
because I will want my spine to be straight in the book, more or less. Well, let's hope anyway, right? And then I'm going to trim this here so it's still straight. Pretty much. Okay. And trim. I should just move my cutting area over and then I wouldn't have to deal with the hump here that's making it skip. So 9.5. 9.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9.5. Okay, pretty straight. There, I lost my count there. Pretty exact. Okay, see what happened? How nice that cut once I moved off this hump. All right, so there's our inside and our outside. And now we're just gonna start gluing things together. All right, as I mentioned, I just wanna rough up this board a little bit because it's so slick and has varnish on it from being a cereal box. We're just gonna give it a little bit more tooth. Okay, so now I am going to use, of all things, Mod Podge for this because I want the sealer effect of it. I could use this glue. You want to test whatever glue you use that it might come through the fabric, and since I'm going to brush this on evenly, you won't know, but if I just did like that, you might see where the glue is, and we don't want that. So I'm going to grab a piece of scrap paper, something that should have been printed on cardstock that was printed on paper, and I'm going to start with the spine and get that in place. So as I said, I've marked here, I know where the center is, and I'm going to basically put it down evenly top and bottom. So on the other side, and I want it all very straight because, you know, I'm me. So let's see. Oops, go over there. Somewhere about there is about 1.5 inches. Let me get that bottle out of the way. 1.5 inches. I think it looks wider on one side than the other. It does. Okay, give me a second here. So I want to split the difference. So why is my center not right? Or maybe I cut crooked. Who knows? It could be any of a number of things. So let's see. I think it's supposed to be there. And there. Okay. That looks pretty good. 1.5, 1.75. Yep, that looks good. All right, so now of course I've got to pick it up again and put it back down. So I'm going to use a pencil because we are animals with tools. This will just help me lay it down. Okay, here, there, there. Again, you can eyeball it, it's not critical. And now I'm going to Mod Podge onto here. So I'm leaving this here on the paper because it's probably going to go through. I'm going to move my pretty covers so they don't get inadvertently glued. And let's, same thing. Should have been on cardstock, wound up on regular paper. I don't have a need for that. So now, again, PVA glue is probably the same stuff. So you just want to give it a good coating down to the bottom of the jar of this one. And remember, I had chosen this side to be the down side of the spine so that it already had more grabability with the raw fibers. Okay, so we're coming back to here. We're just gonna lay it in right where we thought it goes. Beautiful. All right. So now, let me close up this a little bit. Flip it over and burnish. And I would do that with my bone folder if I could find it. There it is. Okay, so give that, oh look, old glue of a different sort. There we go. There. Okay, we don't have to go too crazy on it, but we want a good stick. All right, now we want to glue the covers. So for that, we still want to test drive, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to use Mod Podge and hope that our cheap little brush holds up to the job. So we want to kind of test fit. Now I changed my mind when I said earlier, oh, I want that as the cover, and it's so beautiful. I mean, it would make a lovely cover. Actually, it does, doesn't it? Shoot. Because then I changed my mind. I said, no, I'll make this the cover. Well, let's take a look. So this could be the cover. No, see, I don't like this. Well, I'm putting a plaque in there. I mean, yeah, title plate in there, so it doesn't matter. I might like this more. I think I do. All right, what do you guys think? Should I go this way? Or this way is the, yeah, see, I like, this is gonna be the cover. Cover, 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 so I'm gonna, and I want up. So I have to remember to put the cover on the left side, because it's not what you think when you're actually creating the book. Back. So it's going to go like this, right? Yes, just double checking, up. All right, so now we're going to, oh, it moved. It moved. That's no good. It definitely moved, or I moved it. All right, so this brings up an interesting issue because I see that I'm off my pencil line. So I am no longer straight. Interesting. See, you have to be careful when you're burnishing, and that's exactly what happened. So I think I want to just double check and see how far off are we down here. 1 3/4, or about a 1/16 inch off. No, about 1/8 of an inch off. So I have some options here, and I think I'm going to use them. Because this has 1 5/8, and this has 1, and it's a 1/16. Okay, so a 1/16 I can work with. Right, 5/8, let's see the other side. Oh, that's so distressing. I don't know why I didn't notice it. 1 5/8, and almost 1 5/8. So the cover is going to be fine. And the back might have a 1/16 of an inch, but it's not to be worried about. But normally I would seriously worry about it. Okay, so still that being the case, I want to test fit, test place, if you would, my covers. I'm leaving about 1/4 of an inch, a scant 1/4 of an inch between the spine and the backs, because when I pull this down, I need to know that this is going to go in here and have enough space there. And I will clip it a little bit, but still, you want to make sure it's going to be nice and roomy in there. So maybe I'll go a full 1/4 of an inch and remove all doubt. So let's see. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay, so this is what we're looking at. And I want to make sure that my covers are straight. So to do that, I'm using the guidelines on the cutting mat. And I'm going to put one cover here. And slide the spine to be near it. This is very grabby fabric, which is good. Okay, so that looks about right. You just kind of have to feel it. And now here, and keep it straight. That's a bigger than 1/4 of an inch, something like that. that should be good, and it's pretty much lined up. Again, you just have to wing it. But sometimes it's good to have guides. All right, so that's fine. That changed it a little bit. I'm just trying to see which is the more straighter. Okay, there we go. All right, that should be good. So the idea here is we want our lines to be as straight as possible on the front. All right, so I'm going to go with that. Trying to balance that little 1/16 of an inch difference here without making a crooked book. So I think I'm going with that. Okay, let me just double check. We have 1/4 of an inch, my big head, 1/4 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch. Okay, we're going with that. I'm going to use the pencil again to mark top and bottom, and then inside corners, and that should be good. All right, so now we have to glue it up. And what did I do with my little, there it is. Okay, so in a perfect world, I'd be able to see this and wouldn't be doing it blind, but that's okay. Everything is okay. All right, here's the back. Let's put this on about there. Should be good. It's nice and grabby. Now let's get this side, because I'm running out of digital media to even record this. So I saw I just got a lot of glue on this piece of paper, and since my cover is going down on it, I will move the paper. Put the glue in, put the cover in, and make sure everything is nice and even, or as even as it's going to be. There we go. Big head again, sorry. That should be good. Ah, stop moving, stop moving. Okay, good. All right, so now, burnish. And I'm gonna keep doing this for a few minutes to make sure everything is cool. The camera's about to go off, so I'm gonna shut it off and I'll be right back. As promised, I have returned. I changed the camera card. We should be good. So I'll pick this up and burnish this baby. All right. Oh, look how pretty. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, so now we do want to pull these over and glue them. And we're going to use the same glue for that. Now, what I do want to do ahead of time though is I am going to snip just a little tiny dart in there. Oops, sorry, hit the camera again. All right, well, of course, I couldn't find my baby scissors. They're with my sewing machine, but I could find these never cut paper scissors. They've only been used for fabric. I'm going to cut out a little wedge in each of these sides, just to free up that gulch from some fabric. Good. You want to leave enough so that it will hold, that you can get the fabric to stick, but just take out a little extra bulk. There we go. Okay. All right. So now we can glue this area. So we don't have to be as careful with it because in the area, because it's all going to ultimately get glued anyway. So we can just put some glue here. And you want to be down in the gully as well. And this is where it's going to get a little bit fun. Okay. So again, don't worry too much about the excess glue. In this case, it'll just help seal it in more. Since it's our friendly Mod Podge, we do want to rub against here and make sure that it's a good tight fit. And my bone folder is going to deserve a little acetone today because it's been through all sorts of things. Okay, so there's one side. I'm going to do the other the same way. Oh, that was messy. Okay, well, just clean that up like that. Again, it's all going to wind up glued, so it doesn't really matter. All right, bring that forward. And press this down into the hinge area. Okay, beautiful. So we're going to let this sit for a few minutes. We're going to make sure that it's straight and tight to the edge. And let me get this off. I don't have any paper here. Okay, there, it's off. All right. Oh, beautiful. It folds just fine. And has all that specialness to it. So, all right, so here's what we're looking at. Isn't it lovely, lovely, lovely? So now we need to put this piece in here, like so, and it should match up pretty darn closely. Mine could have been, honestly, another 1/16 inch long, but I think it's just going to make it in terms of covering that up. So this is very easy. This, we just slather it on this piece, and let me make sure there's not too much glue on here. There's not. It's all dry. Make sure you're gluing the wrong side, which would make it the right side to glue. And we're just going to add it liberally to the fabric. Oops, don't be messy. I was just messy. It's because I'm sort of hurrying, and there's no reason to hurry. So you do want to make sure you get it well on all these edges, because we want it to stay unraveled. I mean, raveled. Do you know that ravel and unravel actually mean the same thing? Ravel also means unraveled, which is just another English language way of confusing people. So, all right, that should be plenty good. And there I go, hitting the camera again. I changed my setup a little since, I haven't actually made a video since, I don't know, back in whatever year it was. And so I changed things, and I thought for the better, but now I'm not so sure. All right, so let's get the big head out of the way. Let's move this, pull this back down, and try and center this, lining it up with the edges of the spine fabric, and then taking the bone folder. And it's going to scoot in a little, and that's okay because we're still covering the whole thing. So we want to make sure that it's in there the way we want, which that is. And you can see the glue has come through a little. That is fine. It'll dry clear. It'll all dry with the same sheen. sure that everything is nice and tight against itself. And then it doesn't hurt sometimes to grab the ruler and make sure that it's all really, really in there. So now we can bend a little, make sure that we have enough gutter in there. Lovely. And then we just continue to burnish. All right, so this we're still going to tape over, paper over. But now we have the beginnings of our book cover. So then what I normally do is come to the other side, find my spine, and run it this way. Find the spine, run it this way. Okay. You want to sort of have it tuck in like that. So you bend it up and toward itself. Bend it up, whoops. Bend it up and toward itself. There we go. Just to give it that little bit of a old book edge there. Takes a second or two, and you still have to do this. So all this would be simpler if you weren't trying to design your own book and you just use a book cover, which, as you can see, is exactly what we've done. We've created a book cover. So here that has puckered, and that's fine. This is what you do. It puckers a little here, it puckers a little there. And what you want to try and do is get it to pucker the least anywhere. So we have some puckering here. So let's just make sure it's got enough glue, there we go, to hold it down. Perfect. Okay, so here is our book. It's beautiful and lovely, and I'm going to let it sit and dry for a bit, and then we'll go on.